Book 28 in the Fortune Mystery Series. And welcome to the D. Louise book series. I'm Christine K-S-T-I-N-A. This is where I read books and talk about books. No special effects, no theme music, no fancy schmancy stuff going on here. And we are on book 28. And if you stay tuned to the end, I'm going to read a little passage that's non-plot related. These books are always funny. They always crack me up something terrible. And if you haven't seen my Janet versus Jana, please go watch that if then. These are just awesome. And speaking of which, these are just awesome too. And versus. So please go watch. But anyways, we have the first couple of chapters are cleaning up some old business, so there's big spoilers there, so we won't go there. But the shadow chaser, the young innocent guy that works at the motel that is now has been bought by Manny. Manny's trying to fix it up and make it a little bit better. But in the meantime, he kept the kid on as his clerk, and the kid has helped Fortune and Gertie and Belle quite often. So when Shadow calls and asks for Fortune's help, she's going to give it free of charge. Now, I usually go into this big spiel about Belle and the sinful ladies and the cough syrup and Gertie and the whole 9 yards. But we're going to skip all that because this is completely 100% out of town. So, the pertinent stuff here is that Fortune is former CIA, and Gertie and Belle are her cohorts. They're senior citizen ladies that help her with her cases, and they get into all sorts of trouble and hijinks. And some of the stuff has happened at the motel, and Shadow Chaser has covered for them. So Shadow Chaser calls him up. Please come out here. He's really upset. Can he help? Can she help him? So he explains the situation. His aunt and uncle bought this house. It's on an island. They've been living in it for years. It's a big house. And the name of the island is Voodoo Island. And they've tried to take advantage of that by getting people to stay at their bed and breakfast. And a gentleman has passed away. And the local sheriff, Bryce Benoit, was a schoolmate of Carter's. Not friendly schoolmates, and they weren't even in the same grade, but they were aware of each other, and Bryce was always very jealous of Carter. So there's a little bit of a rivalry going on, but it's only one-sided. It's Bryce's side. So this guy is murdered, and this guy Bryce is the sheriff in that particular town, and he's decided that Corndog, the uncle, that's his name, is responsible because the guy died of anaphylactic shock, and he believes that Corndog used peanut oil for dinner when he didn't. But Bryce believes that and is just automatically going to accuse Corndog. And you don't really get the reason why till much, much later. But it's a little bit of a spoiler here why Bryce is after it is because he wants the rumors to get out that someone died at their place and that Corndog was responsible. So the property value will drop. He can have a friend purchase the house, and then they can sell it for double or triple the price, and he'd get money because the guy's pretty crooked and he really doesn't care who actually did it, and he's not really going to investigate anything. He doesn't like to investigate stuff. He doesn't like to fill out paperwork. Most of the people in town know that. So he gets away with, not doing anything in his job. So Fortune and Belle and Gertie go out there, and hijinks. They're not even on the island yet, and they're already in a bunch of trouble. They get in some hijinks out there. And they get out there, and there are 6 30, 28, 29, 30-ish people out there. They went to high school together, and they're in town for their high school reunion, and they will all had their own little clique, and they've decided to meet up and spend a couple days together before they go to the hotel and join everybody for the high school reunion. So we have Daniel and Brittany, husband and wife, and Tyler and Morgan and Nicole and Amanda. There's all of them. Oh, and Justin is the other one, and Justin is the one that died. So he died, and he died in a locked room, and the door was locked, and the window was locked, and there's only one key. The caretakers, the Corndog and Petunia, his wife, don't even have spare keys. There's only one key to every single room, which he may have to do something about in future reference, because if somebody ever loses the key, they're going to be locked out of the room. He's going to have it refitted anyway. So, yes, ma'am. Hold on a second. So, Fortune and Gertie and Belle go to the island. Like I said, they get into trouble before they even get to the island, to the house itself. And they go undercover. They use Gertie and Belle's real names, but Fortune goes in at Rose. I don't know why they just didn't use a real name, but she was going undercover. And none of the people at the house recognize who Fortune is, because she's working undercover. So she has to figure out how the murderer got in the room with the locked door and the locked window. But 90% of the book takes place on the island, and then at the hotel. They make an excuse to go to the hotel where the high school reunion is, and they do most investigating them. So who did it and why are the two big reasons, and what can they do to get an autopsy? Because Bryce just assumed by surveying the body that it was anaphylactic shock and that it was Corndog's fault, and that was the end of it. He wasn't going to pursue it at all. So Fortune's got to figure out, and she calls all these people she knows, and no one can figure out how to legally get the coroner to make an autopsy if there's no family involved in a situation like that. The guy has I think his father's in jail, but in another state. So there's really no legal recourse there, and she's trying to figure this all out, and she's trying to figure out, the locked room, the locked window, who did it and why, what was the motive. That's her biggest thing, and she's trying to figure out, and she keeps interviewing the kids and talking to them and the whole 9 yards. So you'll have to read the book to find out what happens there. There's also a cliffhanger at the end of the book. We get a little bit of a question, but I just thought I would share, and then I would talk about just a little bit of co-ed and cattails. But I did do this book, most of it via audio. I wanted to stretch it out. I wanted to enjoy it more. I didn't want to go through it quickly. I wanted to be able to enjoy it, so I did the audiobook situation, and I got my little stand at. If you haven't seen, wait a second. Got it in a thrift store, so I don't even know where you can buy it, but it'll work even in bed. You can stop it up on the blankets. It'll hold it up any which way. I usually don't like to do ebooks, but I did this. This was audio. I did the audio version. But it was awesome. So I could do stuff and listen to the book at the same time. So anyways, last book of the book before last. I think it was the book before last. The girls were Saudi Arabia, Middle East, and Gertie had a little bit of a incident with a camel, so she decided to buy one. She says, Who the heck is going to take a camel? Ida Belle asked. A stable, I suggested. Gertie brightened. I'll tell them he's a Middle Eastern sort of horse. Right. So they'll think he's Arabian and you'll show up with this? Ida Belle shook her head. While you stand there and stew, I'm going to try him out, Gertie said, and strolled over to the other side of the giant beast, who looked as if he'd gone to sleep standing there. Maybe Clyde and Sheriff Lee's horse had more in common than we thought. When you are not riding that camel, Ida Belle said. Too late, Gertie grinned as she swung up onto the saddle, and Fortune walks around the other side to see that there was a little step stool on the other side. So one thing leads to another. We'd all forgotten today was tornado siren testing day, but it was clearly an on switch for Clyde. As soon as the first wails echoed through Sinful, the camel's eyes popped open and he bolted, Gertie clinging to the strap on his middle as he loped away. I started to chase him, but Ida Belle ran for the SUV. You're fast, but you can't outlast that camel, she said, and he's got a lot more open space here than the one in that market. So they chase him. He goes through a schoolyard. He takes the swing set with him, and so he's got the pole on his back, and the kids too. And the kids think it's awesome and great. It's going to be a huge story to tell their friends. And Carter tries to help. And he ends up, they end up at Nora's. And Nora is a little of a weed kind of person. And Carter gets a cat on his head when he's trying to rescue the camel. So they get to Nora's house. I was praying that he'd stop when he reached the sand, but all hopes were dashed when he crossed the driveway and went around the house toward the backyard. Heaven help us all, Ida Belle said. She put in a pool. At least she was wearing a bathing suit, barely. Ida Belle raced into Nora's driveway and slammed on the brakes. I was out of the SUV before it stopped and already running for the backyard. And the tornado siren stopped. The kids let out a final scream of glee and jumped off the swings, then ran for the side. Gertie remarkably was still astride the camel, who was now swimming around in a circle, looking somewhat pleased, despite the swing set still hanging from his neck. Ida Belle ran up beside me and shook her head. I told her that a zero-entry sand pool was a bad idea around here. Anything can wander into it. In fairness, I don't think she planned on a camel taking up residence. He probably thinks he's found an oasis in the middle of the desert with sand covering a good quarter of her yard. What the heck is she building, a volleyball court? Did you see us go? The boy asked. The camel is fast. You can't say bad words, but he really was. Our moms are going to have a fit. They're going to have to dip into the secret wine stash early. My mom said the secret wine stash is how we got my sister. I hope she doesn't drink any. Nora came lumbering up about that time, scratched from top to bottom with the branches on the azalea bush and with leaves and flowers stuck in her hair. I probably have something for them that works better than the wine, she said. No handing out your stash to beleaguered parents, Nora. Carter's voice sounded behind me. Let's go tell our moms what we did, the girl said. Just when I think I've seen it all, he said, and looked at Nora. Please tell me you did not buy a camel. Not me. I've had trouble keeping plants alive, except weed. I've got the best weed in the South. Carter closed his eyes and looked skyward, pretending that he hadn't heard a word she said. He's mine, Gertie said. Isn't he awesome? Get me a handful of that weed, I said, before Carter could put his thoughts into words, and that were legal to say in public. He stared at me as if I lost my mind. It's for the camel. We have to get that swing set off him before he takes out more than the mailman. And since half the fence is down for this construction project, it's not like we can just close the gate and let him out. So unless you've got a horse tranquilizer ready. Great idea. Go get the stuff. He sighed and grabbed the pool bush to attempt to drag the float idiot onto the side of the pool. Nora opened her bucket and gave me a bud, and I headed for the slope toward the camel, who was alternating giving me and the cat on the float a weary eye. I couldn't say that I blamed him where the cat was concerned. I had one eyeball on him as well, and for good reason. The last time I'd gone rounds with Nora's cat, he had a loaded gun. He did. Um, he dropped 2 inches from the float and got good foot from the side of the pool, clawing at the brush as he hit the water. He sprang up so fast I swear his head wasn't even wet. Then climbed on top of the bush and ran up the pole like a tightrope walker at the circus. Reaching Carter's arms didn't slow him down one bit. He ran straight up to his shoulders, then perched on top of Carter's head, claws dug in and dripping. Carter cursed as he tugged the cat at the hat, trying to pull him off his head, but idiot had attached for the duration. Finally, he leaned over, figuring the cat would let go if he was hanging upside down, but he was a real tad bit too close to the side of the pool. His foot hit the pool bush as he bent over, and he went cat first into the pool. Idiot decided his new perch wasn't good any longer and vaulted off Carter's head and back onto the camel. The startled camel shot halfway up the beach entry. Ida, Belle, and I ducked to avoid being taken out by the swing, and Nora fell backwards over a lounge chair. And to find out what happens next, you're gonna have to read the book yourself. I hope you have a good day. Don't forget to check out If Then Fridays, Star Trek Voyager recaps Fridays, JD Rob's character spoilerizations every Saturday, unboxing on Sunday, flashback Monday. If anybody has ideas for that, please leave it in the Flashback Monday comments. And of course, my daily book reviews. Have a good one.